System of a Down's Chop Suey is one of those songs that I listened to when I was a kid, a couple times here and there, and dug, I mean, it's an incredibly powerful rock song. It can make your head bang quite a bit, but, I didn't really understand what the song was really trying to say. I didn't really go deep into the meaning of Chop Suey. Let alone, I think, even really appreciate the music, I would say, until, literally last week or so. That's right, I've been listening to a lot of System of a Down, and this is a band I have listened to at least their first 3 or 4 albums in the last couple years, maybe year or so, just because I really like the stuff I have listened to from them, and I really like them as a band in general, and I think they're one of the greatest bands out there, 100%. Or I don't know, not as much out there because I don't think they're making any new music. I know Serge has put out some new music himself, but overall, I just think System of a Down as a band, one of the most creative, one of the most genius bands out there. And like I said, Chop Suey is one of those songs that I have enjoyed for the longest time. But it's not until now that I realized how truly special this song is. And now that I think about it, there's probably tons of other System of a Down songs that are just as special as this one. So in this video, we're going to get into exactly why this song is such a masterful track. We're going to listen to it, we're going to analyze it, and you're going to let me know what you think in the comment section below. Absolutely beautiful intro here. The drums are incredible. This is just a taste.
Self-righteous suicide. I cry when angels deserve to die. Wake up, grab brush and put a little makeup. I just got to fade away. Why'd you leave the keys upon the table? Here you go, create another fable. You wanted to grab a brush and put a little makeup. You wanted to. I just got to fade away. You wanted to. Why'd you leave the keys upon the table? You wanted to. Well, I don't think you trust in my self-righteous suicide.
Beautiful.
I cry when angels deserve to die. In my self-righteous suicide.
Beautiful.
When angels deserve to die. Father, into your hands I commend my spirit. Father, into your hands, why have you forsaken me? In your forsaken me, in your thoughts forsaken me, in your heart forsaken me. I'll trust in my self-righteous suicide. I cry when angels deserve to die. In self-righteous suicide. Why cry when angels deserve to die.
Oh my God. You get one chance in life, one chance to write a song like this. Now, sometimes you get multiple chances like System of a Down has because they're legendary artists, but for the most part, you know, you're lucky if you have a masterful song like this under your belt at some point. This is one of those tracks where you listen to it and you're like, holy crap, I am witnessing something iconic, something that, you know, cements this band as one of the greats, right, of all time. You're listening to something that is just so transcendental, you know, so almost otherworldly, so grand. And this is what the song is. You know, usually I kind of pause around here and there or lower the volume of the song a bit to talk about it, but this is a song that you just can't do that with, you know? Like, you just have to, like, really, really listen to the song. You can't, you just, you know, it doesn't let you, it doesn't give you the time to really think that much or, like, you know, or express or say anything. It is a song you must just absorb. You know, so many things to love about this song. The biggest thing that I think about is the dynamics of the song, right? It has quiet moments, it has somber moments, and then it has just switches. It goes into full power, you know, just full thrash metal / metal, you know, heavy rock. And System of a Down in general is really good at this. And now this makes sense, of course, right? You don't always want to be, you don't want to have a song that is just pure, like, anger the entire time, because, you know, it can get quite old, unless you're, you know, a masochist. But you know, you usually want to have some variation in there. You want to have some dynamics, and System of a Down's songwriting is incredible. So they do that very well here in Chop Suey. The song's instrumentation is amazing. You know, you hear some piano in there, you hear some guitar in there, just absolutely incredible. It's so versatile, you know. That's why I like sometimes people who like shit on metal, you know, who shit on rock, you know, these closed-minded people who say that, oh, like, these songs aren't beautiful. There's no substance to them. You know, they're absolutely insane, okay? Like, these songs have so much versatility in them, so much musicianship in them. You'd have to be truly just as close-minded as you can possibly be. You know, just open your mind a tiny bit and you will see some beauty, because songs like these are necessary, you know, for not just because of the lyrics of the song, which we'll talk about and we'll get into, but because of its ability, you know, to provide catharsis for people, you know, for us. Its ability to, you know, there are songs you listen to when you're happy, right? That you can use as a vehicle for your happiness. There are songs that you can use for your anger. Metal can sometimes provide that sort of relief. And sometimes people, you know, listen to metal regardless of how they're feeling because they just love the music. And that happens to me too. But, you know, when I'm feeling angsty, when I'm feeling angry at the world, when I'm feeling, you know, bad, you know, let's say, listening to something like this allows me to release that anger, release that frustration in a way that can be quite cathartic, right? So, you know, there's a place for everything in this world. Even for some country songs, you might be surprised. But, you know, let's listen to some of my favorite moments from this song. Obviously, the main riff of the track, okay, when it hits, when it drops, if your head is not banging, you maybe, I don't know, I just, maybe you don't have a conscience or something. Maybe you're not human, you know? Do you have emotions? If you have emotions in your brain and you're capable of feeling them, you have to be headbanging at this point. See, again, the build-up. Such great build-up. Oh. If you're not getting chills, you're not human.
Wake up! Grab brush and put a little makeup.
Yeah, I mean, System of a Down here is so great, specifically the singer, right, Serj Tankian, and creating these really clever and unique verses, you know, approach to the verses. You know, and he also just, he does regular singing. But these very staccato, jumpy, you know, rap-like verses, you know, is so unique, I think. And then it goes back into the anger, which is amazing. That combination, we just heard the piano right before it hit. That contradiction of, you know, piano is sometimes used for softness. And then it precedes the anger and the rawness. It's beautiful. You know, they do such a masterful job of, you know, it's very simple, but so incredibly sophisticated and genius. You know, they have that iconic riff, right? They have that, and what they do in the verses is sort of chop it up, right? Like the title of the song says, even though the title of the song is sort of a interesting story there, you know, on the title of the song. They initially wanted to call it Self-Righteous Suicide, but because of the backlash and because they weren't allowed to call the song that, and you know, even though they pushed back on the label, they instead called it Chop Suey, which is it's a long thing. It's sort of a play on words of self-righteous suicide. It's a play on words off of that, and it's also, I believe, an Americanization of a Chinese dish. So very interesting there. But yeah, you know, that riff of the song, they chop it up. They kind of break it up in the verses, and they break it, and then they pause. Goes into silence, and then they continue it, and then they pause again. I mean, it's a perfect way to sort of, you know, use that riff to reuse it in the verses and make it sound like it's something new and keep the listener engaged, right? You have that amazing riff that kind of hooks all of us, and then it's like, okay, where are you going to go next? And you go into the verses, and it goes, you know, like it's absolutely brilliant. You know, what are you going to do? We're going to play the same thing again, sort of, but, you know, kind of chop it up. You know, it's brilliant. Love that. And then it goes into this. It's so beautiful. This sort of pre-chorus here, bridge, whatever you want to call it. Love that shot. And then here we get a taste of the beauty of the song, right? You get some acoustic instruments in the background there, the piano, the melody. I cry. So beautiful. Surge's voice is brilliant. Capable of so much anger, but so much pain, right? The screams are awesome. Love this part. And then, beautiful. The anger here, the pain. We gotta listen to that melody there again. That's such a brilliant. And we know that System of a Down definitely takes inspiration from, you know, Armenian culture and music, Middle Eastern influence there, and that melody. Very, very Middle Eastern. Really, really cool stuff. Love this. The pain, you know, brilliant. The piano here, very beautiful. So much anger and frustration married with such beauty and grace and divinity. I mean, this sounds like religion to me, man. This sounds like what religion is supposed to be. Love that. So beautiful. Die. die, and then Darren's harmony, die. Just amazing. Just absolutely amazing. But of course, you cannot listen or analyze a System of a Down song without talking about its lyrics. And this is a song where the lyrics really take the song to a whole another level. Let's hop over here to Genius and check out the lyrics. You see that intro there in the song, We're Rolling Suicide. That's funny. And then we go into the verses. Grab a brush, put a little makeup, hide your scars to fade away the shakeup. Why'd you leave the keys up on the table? Here you go, create another fable. You wanted to grab a brush and put a little makeup. You know, I think the song, it's very obvious that it has a lot of drug addiction, you know, sort of references to it. This sort of idea of people, you know, putting on makeup, you know, sometimes we've all seen those images, right, of like meth heads and stuff like that and how bad their faces can get. Or, you know, heroin addicts, whatever. And so, you know, a lot of these people, they put makeup on and stuff. But, you know, it doesn't just have to apply to people who have drug addictions. You know, people who have self-harm, you know, they cover up themselves, you know, who pick their faces or stuff like that, you know, makeup, you know, like you can apply it to all different kinds of things. And, you know, people self-harm in different ways, you know, hell, you know, alcoholics, right? They love to put their alcohol in canisters or things that don't look like alcohol, right? That appear to be normal drinks on the outside, but you know, clearly they're sipping on some booze on the inside. So you know, people do all kinds of things to cover up their self-harm, you know, their dangerous habits, and so I think this can go, you know, as far as you want, you know, and here you go, create another fable, right? People who are who have these self-destructive habits, they create lies, you know, and a lot of the people, unfortunately, a lot of their family members, their friends, they fall into these traps, into these fables, that a lot of these you know, individuals who are going through these awful things, they create these fables, you know, to make it seem like they're okay, you know, to cover up their behaviors, right? So that's very interesting. Why'd you leave the keys upon the table? You know, I guess these are some ways that sometimes, you know, these individuals, they mess up, you know, and or they do things, you know, that normal people would do, but these people don't have that mindset, you know, to do things that normal people do because their mind is elsewhere. Their priorities are elsewhere, right? And so they forget some of these things that normal people would remember. You wanted to, right? You wanted to. And that's, you know, this song, I think this You Wanted To here definitely plays into, I'm trying to highlight it here. You Wanted To is very, very important because I was reading some YouTube comments, you know, some people are saying, well, the song's inclusion of the lyric You Wanted To is trying to say that is the mind of the drug addict, you know, or the person, you know, creating that self-harm to themselves, right? Engaging in these destructive behaviors. That is them telling themselves or fully doing these behaviors because they want to, right? Not because they have the choice, or not because they don't have the choice, but because they want to. You know, it is something that they enacted upon themselves. It is their choice. And then there's that other mindset, right? Where it's like, it is society forcing this on them, you know, society telling them, no, you are in this position and you are, you know, engaging in these destructive behaviors because you wanted to, you know, it was a choice and you made it. Whereas, you know, some people would argue these behaviors, these people and these self-destructive behaviors are done because of environmental things, because of societal aspects, you know, that kind of force people to go into these types of decisions and to have these types of lives. And, you know, I think you can say, you know, in places where there's a lot of crime, there's a lot of violence, right? There's a lot of gang activity. There's a lot of homelessness or lack of housing. There is, you know, it's like this sort of self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like this cycle, you know, crime begets crime, violence begets violence. And poorness begets poorness. I mean, it's just, and also ignorance and lack of education, and it's no coincidence that a lot of these negative things sort of exist, in harmony, for a lack of a better term, in these types of places, right? And so some people make the argument, well, no, the reason why these people are in this type of life, why some kids go into gangs, why some kids go into drugs, is because of the world, of the society that they're in, right? Of the immediate society that they're living around, right? If you grow up in a family of drug addicts, chances are you might become a drug addict, And so some people would make the argument and defend, a lot of these communities and say, well, no, a lot of these people, it's almost as if they didn't have a choice, And so what you have to do is improve the area around them, in order for eventually for you to see the results and people to go into education, for people to get out of that type of lifestyle, right? Is invest in the community from bottom up, right? And create more affordable housing, or opportunities for people to go into rehab, and to get their lives together, and invest in these communities, right? And so, see, this is why this song is so great, right? Because it allows us to go in these types of discussions. But I think that you wanted to, we've all been, guilty of telling that to someone who has engaged in self-destructive behavior. And if you have not been a person to deal with someone who has done self-destructive behaviors, you're very lucky. But for a lot of people, that they've been guilty. I've been guilty of saying that to someone. It's like, oh, well, you wanted to do that. You wanted to do this. This was your choice. But I'm not practicing empathy there. I'm not practicing compassion, with that statement, right? I mean, it very well might have been their choice, but maybe that's not the right attitude to take, right? Sometimes it is. Sure. I mean, you can make the argument, right? Especially if someone's, doing the same thing over and over and over again, even though you're giving them everything that you possibly can to help them, right? And then we go into basically the chorus of the song, the most important lyric of the song. I don't think you trust in my self-righteous suicide. I cry when angels deserve to die. Now, to be fair, I first read this and I didn't really know what to make of it. But I think upon reading some of the annotations here on Genius, it can be quite enlightening. This Genius annotation here has about 473 likes, so we have to take it as fact. But nobody can truly understand his or anyone's feelings towards death and the afterlife. Killing himself would be a blessing that only he could understand. Darren Malakian has addressed the meaning of this chorus directly, and he's the guitarist of the band. The song is about how we are regarded differently depending on how we pass. Everyone deserves to die. Like, if I were now to die from drug abuse, they might say I deserved it because I abused dangerous drugs. Hence the line, I cry when angels deserve to die. That's interesting, right? I think we live in a world that, we live in a society that, still has some sort of stigma, has some sort of, offensive stance to people who do self-harm. Now, I think we are currently living in the most accepting, the most understanding society we've ever lived in. I think, a lot of people, to a certain extent, when they say, hey, we have to break the stigma of mental health, I think it's happening. Like, it's very much happening. I do think so. Is there still more work to be done? Yeah, but I think at least at the very least, our culture, the way we speak about it, the way we address some of these topics, we are addressing them with much more compassion and understanding than 10 years ago, right? And even then, it was happening. That conversation was happening. Obviously, there's still much more work to be done in terms of tangible ways, right? Like investing in mental health care. Depending on what state you live in, you might have terrible mental health care, where it takes you months and months to find a therapist, a psychiatrist. That's awful, right? And so I think in tangible ways, there's a lot more that we can be doing. But in terms of the way that we speak, in our society, about these topics, I think we're there. I think, at the very least, we're there, I think. You know what I mean? Like, but, again, still, depending on also the family that you have, maybe if you're living in, some incredibly, ultra conservative, environment, maybe you're like, no, dude, there's still some more work to be done. And, obviously, this is just my opinion, okay? If you were to die from drug abuse, they might say, I deserved it because I abused dangerous drugs. And to be fair, I'm going to be completely transparent with you when it comes to even suicide, right? Which is, I think, one of the things that this song addresses. But in general, it addresses self-harm, right? And suicide is a form of that, the most ultimate form of that. In the description below, there will be links if you are unfortunately thinking of something like that. There is help, and there is a link down there for you. If you are struggling out there, there's help. Please search for it. We need you here. I'm going to be completely transparent. I remember when Chester Bennington died, or hell, when I was in school and we were discussing suicide. There was a part of me who was like, these people are being selfish. They're taking the easy way out. And then, as I get older, and as I talk to more people, or as I read up on more things, or as I read things like this, I'm like, no, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure there are some instances where that is the case, you know what I mean? Just to be completely objective here. But I think I have faith in people, that everyone doesn't want to do that. We all want to be happy. We all want to live forever, it was an exaggeration, but what I mean is we want to live. We want to be here. We want to enjoy our time here, right? We want to be happy. And no one just does that action, just for no reason. You must be in one of the worst spots of your life. The worst spot in your life, hell, for you to do that. For you to get to a point where you think that permanent solution, quote unquote, is the only thing, for you. You must, in order for you to even think about that, to even fully do it, you must be in the worst position ever, to the point where you think that there's no hope for any more happiness in your life. You are definite of that. You think that you are causing other people harm. You are burdening other people fully, and you are fully convinced that this world would be better without you. You have to be in a very, 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 just for lack of a better word, justifiable state, justified state, in terms of pain and suffering, in order to do something like that. Unless, sometimes you're under the influence and it can be easy to make those types of decisions. But if you're not, and a lot of these times, people are fully sober, and they're making these decisions. And so when I think about that, I'm like, because my God, I would never do that, and that's what I say now, knock on wood. But, I think, gosh, if you are doing that, it must be because your pain is that real, And so when I sort of realized that, that's when I was like, we have to have more sympathy, more compassion for these people. We have to have more understanding, because, and this goes for other types of destructive behaviors, destructive thoughts, people who are undergoing drug abuse, who are doing that to themselves. Yes, there are instances where these people, are bad people and they're doing these types of things, right? But then there are other times, a lot of other times, when these are good people who fall into these destructive behaviors, because it's easy to, because their suffering justifies it sometimes. Or at the very least, it feels like it does, right? And that's enough. These people need help, need compassion, need to be heard. They must not be judged so harshly, in the way that sometimes they are. I cry when angels deserve to die. That line is so it exactly does what it says it is, right? What it says it is doing, right? When I think of Chester Bennington, when I think of Kurt Cobain, when I think of Robin Williams, when I think of anyone who was a good person who decided that this world would be better without them, I cry, right? Metaphorically, literally, whatever, right? But I cry because they were angels. And some parts of society think that they deserve to die because they chose that path. They decided, and this goes very well into this other part of this amazing annotation from this genius user. In terms of the Christian ethos, self-harm and suicide is a sin because we shouldn't desecrate the bodies God gave us. Much of society has absorbed this, and thus its response to diseases like addiction can be very harsh and unsympathetic. The speaker turns it around and emphasizes the choices that someone makes are not always tied to their value as a person. From that perspective, the one who knowingly harms themselves, accepts their sin, can be viewed as more righteous than the person who high-handedly judges others without practicing compassion. The singer takes on an almost Christ-like stance of mercy towards those that the most pious people of society choose to look down on. Very, very, very true. Listen, right? This a lot of this sort of judging of self-harm and suicide comes from the Christian ethos. It's true. Suicide, self-harm is viewed as a sin because you're hurting your body, right? And to a certain extent, I can understand that, from a philosophical level, it's not a good thing to be doing that, right? We know that. We know it's not a good thing. However, that doesn't mean we can't be compassionate. That doesn't mean we can't be understanding, right? Because these things don't exist in a vacuum. There's context. I don't think you trust in my self-righteous suicide, right? In many ways, it's true. In many ways, people who undergo that type of thing, who make the decision to do that, in many ways, they've thought to themselves that they deserve to go through that, right? That's why a lot of these people do it, right? Because they think that the world would be better off if they were not here. And so they think that them doing that is righteous, is the absolute correct thing. It is, in fact, the superior way of doing the superior action, right? That's why it says self-righteous suicide. Hell, you can make the argument, right, that what Jesus did on the cross, and I'm not a religious person, I don't believe it literally, but I think it's a beautiful story, it's a beautiful metaphor. But some people may say, what Jesus did there was self-righteous. You could say that, because he gave himself up, for it was technically, you could make the argument it was suicide. He gave himself up. He willingly put himself in a position to be harmed. And it was the righteous thing to do, right? It was the morally superior, thing to do. And a lot of these people, I think they view it as, a lot of these people who commit these, suicide, they think that they are being righteous, right? That they're helping the world. And it's sad, right? It's sad to think that. But that is part of their mentality. And so I love this song's approach of saying, like, kind of embracing that and be like, you know what? Yeah. Because you know what? People out there who are judging them, who think they're more righteous, but they're not practicing that compassion. Yeah. Maybe these people who do these acts, who do these destructive behaviors for the reasons that they do, and these are good people, maybe they are more righteous. And, I think you can make that argument. I think you definitely can. We've all met those people, those hypocritical ass people who go to church, and think that they're high and mighty above all of us. But they're the first people that we would call dicks, right? And not compassionate, right? And at the end of the day, you cry when angels deserve to die because they don't. They don't. But some people say that they do, that they deserved it. They brought it on this. They brought it upon themselves. However you want to look at it, it's unfortunate and it's a tragedy, right? And I gotta love the juxtaposition there, the combination of, in my self-righteous suicide, I cry when angels deserve to die. So in my self-righteous suicide, that statement is biased towards the people who do that act, right? It is sort of saying, yes, right? You believe it is self-righteous, you can make the argument that it is. It makes sense, right? And at the same time, it is followed by a statement that is not necessarily being biased towards fully, but it is sort of acknowledging and is pointing out the idea of society, burdening this individual who has committed, this act, that they do deserve to die. And so it's the sort of putting those two statements, and at the same time, it does say, I cry when angels deserve to die. It's the marriage between two sort of opposing viewpoints of society. The first part, I cry when angels, right? It is being sympathetic, towards people who commit suicide, right? And then angels deserve to die part is sort of acknowledging the society, part of the society that views it as, oh, well, it was their fault. They brought it upon themselves, right? It's just brilliant. It really is. It is a song that is so incredibly self-aware, right? And it is making a statement, and it is rebelling, but at the same time, it is acknowledging, and it is fighting against, really, at the end of the day, the way that the way that society views these types of topics, right? Incredibly poignant, and just incredibly moving and enlightening and tragic, beautifully tragic. And it makes you think, doesn't it? It really does. And then, of course, we move on to the sort of climax of the song, which I love musically. But Father, 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 into your hands I commend my spirit. Why have you forsaken me? In your eyes forsaken me. That's the plead, right? That's the plead at the end of the day of the person undergoing this destructive behavior, being like, why me? Why, right? And it is fighting against all that nonsense, in my opinion, of, this is all part of God's plan. This is, in many ways, if everything is part of God's plan, then people who undergo self-harm, who undergo suicide, well, that was a part of God's plan. You can make that argument, right? So it's that again, it's that hypocrisy. And it is, why have you forsaken me? Why? Everyone feels this way, even people who are religious. Hell, Jesus did that himself right before he died, in a way. Contemplating the fact that he was going to go through this sacrifice, go through this suicide. And it's like, why, dude? And it is, and I love this line because, this is the type of conflict that even Jesus had, but it's also the type of conflict that normal people, human beings go through when they're undergoing suffering, right? So that's why at the end of the day, even though, like I said, I'm not a religious person, it's part of the reason why I love religion, because it is so incredibly universal. And it is, at the end of the day, it is a reflection of the human experience. And so I love that Serge here and Darren used, these types of lyrics to describe someone who is in fact in pain and just asking why, just why. And, at the same time, it's also calling out the hypocrisy, right, of the religion, right, and the people who follow this religion. And then it ends beautifully with, of course, I cry when angels deserve to die. It's beautiful. It's heartbreakingly, tragically beautiful. And my God, I went way longer than I wanted to with this video, but I think this song definitely calls for it, right? I love how powerful it is, how moving it is, how angry it is, how frustrating it is, how just fucking headbanging it is. But it is so incredibly beautiful. Love it. Just love it. But anyway, those are my thoughts on Chop Suey, System of a Down. I hope you enjoyed this. This was incredibly long, but I hope you got something out of it. obviously, I am very interested in what you have to say in the song. What does it mean to you? Do you like the song? Do you not like the song? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comment section below. Give this video a like if you liked it. Dislike it if you didn't. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this. Share with your System of a Down loving friends, if you will, or share it to the people who hate System of a Down. Who cares? If it's your birthday, happy birthday to you, you beautiful creature. You all take care. Stay safe. And until next time, I love you.